Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start the meeting in a moment, now that we've decided that it is actually time. None of the 3 clocks in this room are showing the same time, and they're all wrong, which is kind of irritating. So, Andrew, are we live yet?
Yes, we are, Chair.
We are live. Thank you very much. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this extraordinary full council meeting on this evening of Wednesday, the 18th of June at Blackdown House. And I'd like to welcome you all to the chamber and welcome anybody who may be watching online to this meeting. Health and safety. We've obviously got no fire drill planned. So if the fire alarm goes off, please leave the building through the nearest fire exit, which may be behind you, and follow the green running man signs above the doors. Make your way to the rear of the car park. If anyone needs assistance, please can you make that known to us as soon as possible at the start of the emergency. The organizer of the meeting will tell you when it is safe to return to the chamber. The meeting can be viewed live online on the East Devon District Council YouTube page and will be available to view again later. The agenda and papers have been published on the Council's website in advance of the meeting. If you are going to refer for any reason to a page in the document, please can you actually say which page that is so that everybody can find their place in the pack. Highlight good meeting practice. Please only speak at the chair's invitation. Please only speak through the chair. Switch the microphone on your desk when you're invited to speak and speak directly into the microphone, and then switch the microphone off again after speaking. Turn all your mobile devices, please, to silent or off. If you've not already done so, please log into your microphone on your desk. And please, if you're asked to stop speaking by the chair, please stop speaking at that point. We are going to start the meeting by doing roll call and declarations of interest rolled into one for the usual reasons that we know, which is that the video equipment picks us up if we speak for long enough. So I'm now going to hand over to Andrew Melhuish, who's going to do the roll call. And please, can you state if you have a declaration of interest at that time? Thank you. Over to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good evening, councillors. Okay, so Councillor Arnott, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Andrew. Present and also would like to declare an interest as the county division member for Seaton and Collerton in the main item tonight.
Thank you very much. Councillor Aurora Bailey, please.
Present and no declaration, thank you.
Councillor Brian Bailey.
Present, Andrew, no declarations.
Thank you. Councillor Colin Brown.
Present and no declarations.
Thank you. Councillor Jenny Brown.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Bruce.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Bethany Collins.
Present and no declarations.
Councillor Roy Collins.
Present.
Do you have any
And do you have any
declarations, Councillor Collins?
No.
Thank you very much. Councillor Davey.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Dumper.
Present and no declarations, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Faithful.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Fernley.
Present and no declarations.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Present and no declarations.
Councillor Gazzard.
Present, no declarations. Thank you.
Sorry. Councillor Anne Hall.
Present and no declarations, thank you.
Councillor Matt Hall.
Present and no declarations. Thank you.
Councillor Hartnell.
Present, and I need to declare an interest as a Seaton Town Councillor because they're contributing towards the scheme. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hayward.
Present and no declarations, thank you.
Councillor Heath.
Present and declaration on the district councillor that covers West Seaton.
Thank you. Councillor Hookway.
Present, no declarations, thank you.
Councillor Hughes.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Jackson.
Present, no declarations.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffreys.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Young.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Veen.
Present, no declarations. Thank you.
Councillor Loudon.
Present, no declarations. Thank you, Andrew.
Councillor Martin.
Present, no declarations. Thank you.
Councillor Olive.
Present and no declarations. Thank you.
Councillor Rickson.
Present, no declaration.
Councillor Rylance.
Present, no declarations, thank you.
Councillor Toy.
Councillor Toy, if you put your
Count-
pass on the left-hand side of it, it should log you in.
So, so just to confirm, Councillor Toy is present and no declarations.
Indeed.
Councillor Westerman.
Present, no declarations.
Thank you. Councillor Wibley.
Present and no declarations.
Councillor Ragg.
Present, no declarations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Now, do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies this evening from Councillor Jess Bailey, Councillors Barlow, Blakey, Bloxham, Burrup, Chamberlain, Chapman, Councillor Chubb, Councillor Haggerty, Sam Hawkins, Vicky Johns, Fabian King, Councillor Ledger, Councillor McKinder, Councillor Nicholas, Councillor Parr and Councillor Smith. I'm happy to take any other apologies, Chair.
Are there any other apologies from the room? Councillor Martin, you have an apology?
Councillor Dan Wilson has just sent his apologies.
Councillor Dan Wilson. Are there any more apologies forthcoming? Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, item 3, public speaking. Now, when this agenda was put together and when this script was put together, we didn't have any public speaking. I've now permitted a member of this chamber to speak in public speaking session because it's a matter of community leadership, and I felt it was important because it's kind of time limited as well. So I'm going to ask Councillor Ragg to speak in a moment, but in the meantime, I just wanted to say that on Saturday in Exmouth, there will be a big party involving people of all ages, a celebration of diversity, through which people can feel accepted and welcomed and part of the community. And I wanted to say that everybody at this council is very much on the side of every single individual in this local authority and wants to be as inclusive and embrace diversity as much as possible. So with that in mind, Councillor Ragg has something to say. I've permitted her to stay in her seat because it's difficult for her with her mobility at the moment. So she is now going to speak in public speaking for no more than 3 minutes, please, Councillor Ragg. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, Chair. Appreciate it. In recent days, there have been serious incidents of vandalism concerning the event Gay Pride on Saturday. It's due to take place in the Manor Gardens, which is owned by this council. Disturbingly, banners have been slashed with blades of some sort, and understandably people are upset and some people feel intimidated and some are afraid to attend the event. So this is by way of reassurance to them, and I'm speaking as champion for equalities and diversity for this council. We pride ourselves as a district council in promoting equal rights regarding race, gender and opportunities for all of our residents. This hateful behaviour has no place in our communities, which is renowned as a welcoming and caring part of the world in which peaceful living is its hallmark. Freedom is treasured here, and if the perpetrators of this despicable act want to keep theirs, then they must stop immediately or risk losing their own freedom. We appeal to anyone witnessing or having knowledge of crimes such as this to contact the police immediately. We do not tolerate intolerance to others. And I felt that it's important to state this evening in view of the fear that there is in Exmouth and in view of the tragic fatal stabbing that there was just over 2 weeks ago. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wragg. Okay, moving on to item 4, matters of urgency. There are no matters of urgency on this agenda. Item 5, confidential exempt items. There are no confidential items to discuss. Item 6, which is the substantial part of our meeting, which is the Seaton Coast Protection Scheme. I'm going to ask Councillor Young to move the recommendations, which you have in the papers in front of you, and there will be time for a debate and questions. So would you please take it away, Councillor Young?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to introduce this item as portfolio holder for this coastal defence project. One of the first of many schemes we will be doing with our joint company, Southwest Flood and Coastal, which we have set up in partnership with BPC Council, that is Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch Council. A really good example in working in partnership with like-minded progressive councils. The approval from Council tonight will allow us to push ahead and order the new rock to ensure best value for money now, as delays will probably result in higher costs being incurred next year, and also we'll have to go through a winter with the storms. This scheme is to minimise the risk of coastal erosion at Seaton Hole, and we are pushing hard to deliver this vital scheme during this financial year. I would now like to hand over to our engineer, Tom Buxton-Smith, to explain more and to answer any technical questions. Thank you.
Over to you, Tom. Do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify that the report is to seek the approval to spend up to £673,500. Sorry, I'll say that again. £673,000 and 500. I'm still getting the figure wrong. Apologies. Should have just asked for a round figure. There's a £673,500 to essentially funding at risk the project, so that we can order the rock, get in contract with the contractor, and they can also set up the barges to deliver the rock prior to funding arriving from the Environment Agency later in this year. Due to the peculiarities of the Coastal Protection Act, we're not able to access the Environment Agency funding until planning permission is granted. They have assured the project locally, but they cannot sign the figures to release the documents to release the money until planning is granted, which will be later this year. As Councillor Young said, waiting a year until this project goes ahead risks us having to go on a further funding drive, and may delay the project further if we cannot find funds. The project's currently funded enough to proceed. We've tendered a contractor on the open market, and essentially we're ready to go pending being able to access this additional money sooner than what we would be able to had we followed the waited for the Environment Agency. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Can I just clarify the exact figure we're talking about? Because I think there may be a typo in the actual recommendation. So are we talking about 673,000 or 673,500? Because in the document that I have in front of me, it says 673,000 in the recommendation. So if we could amend that, if that's a typo, it can be amended, can't it? Okay. So Tom, are we certain that the number is 673,500? Jeff?
I believe it was the round figure, which is why I was struggling looking at the report summary. I can quickly double check, but it was the lower figure, the round figure.
I think our Section 151 officers are happy to step in on this. Simon?
I think I would take, well, my advice is to take the figure printed on your agenda. £500 isn't going to make any difference in the scheme of things.
Thank you. Okay, so we don't need to worry about rectifying the typo. So the number we're talking about is 673,000, which is what is in the recommendation. Okay, thank you. All right, fabulous. Now, I haven't had a seconder yet. Who would like to second? Councillor Bruce, is that you seconding? No, that's Councillor Bruce wanting to ask a question. Is anybody wishing to second? Oh, Councillor Hartnell, are you wishing to second? Fabulous, thank you. So we have a proposer, we have a seconder, and now we can move into debate. And I believe, oh, Councillor Hartnell has, you want to speak? Okay, go for it.
Very briefly, yeah, in complete support of this, appreciating that there is some risk if we don't get planning permission. Only to say that if you need any help storing 7,000 tonnes of stone, I've got a bit of space in my backyard. But otherwise, fully supportive, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hartnell. Who do we have next? Councillor Bruce, I think, and then Councillor Hughes, and then possibly Councillor Heath. Councillor Bruce first, please.
Thank you, Chair. When I saw this item come up, I was reminded back in my school days of the story of King Canute sitting on the beach in his chair trying to stop the tide come in. And of course, the reality with Canute was that he never intended for that to happen. He knew full well he couldn't stop the tide. He couldn't even stop the sun from setting that day. And of course, in a way, here we are again. And it's worth pointing out that sea level 120,000 years ago was 20 metres higher than we are today. And we were doing nothing then. And there's no reason to suggest that it won't get that high again as we come to the end of the interglacial. So on the basis of that, I just have a few questions to raise. Firstly, mention is made of beachgoers in this area. And I'd be interested to know if we have any figures on that, because I use this beach quite regularly and it's not very well populated, even in the middle of summer. So I suspect this is more about property protection. And if it is, I think the report needs to say that, because it is a little thin on details as far as I can see. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, how does this work fit into the National Shoreline Management Plan? Because that's something that all councils sign up to, and we will be a signatory of that. So I'd be interested to know how we come along with that, with this defence work. And finally, my experience of this particular section of the coastline is that if you leave it alone, it has a natural inclination of set. And the toe of any cliff left unprotected is its own defence. It nourishes the beach and provides ongoing protection, but it has to be allowed to get to a natural angle. And the unconsolidated cliffs at Seaton Hole, the Triassic, are very, very loose, as we see. There was a fall there recently. And by putting rock armour on the top of that, in front of that, you're basically taking that action away, that natural action. And if you do that, you cut off the supply, which enhances the potential scouring in front of the rock armour. It deepens the water so that when we do have storm events, any potential damage is that much greater. So I have grave concerns about the way we're going, and I was shown an example this evening of Beer, just around the corner, where defence works were put forward against the recommendation of the fishermen and marine engineers. And we have a beach at Beer which is so steep it's almost impossible to launch from compared to the photograph I was shown this evening. And my concern is that we are going to be repeating mistakes. And trust me, the UK coastline is littered with mistakes made by sea defence. So I think I'm concerned about what we're doing here, is what I'm basically trying to say. And I'm really concerned about the amount of money, because inevitably we can't stop what's happening. And my final question would be, when we go forward with this defence work, do we have a timescale as to how long it's going to actually last before we have to come back again and revisit it? Because again, eventually we're not going to be able to stop. We will have to have a managed realignment of our coastline. And unfortunately, properties are going to fail, just like the one at Sidmouth that's hanging off the edge of the cliff, that wonderful thatched building that is going to go. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bruce. I think I'm going to pass. That was 4 questions, so I think we'll start with those rather than taking a few at once. Tom, have you got any answers to any of the questions?
Yes, I made a few notes, and please let me know if I've skipped over a few things. So, the scheme is primarily funded to protect homes, so it's not beach goers per se. The Environment Agency's funding is to reduce the risk of erosion. So this is slowing down the time essentially when that house is going to be at risk of becoming uninhabitable. So that's where the funding comes from. So it's purely a coastal erosion. It is also enhanced by that there is a cul-de-sac up there, which when the access is gone, those homes will no longer have vehicle access. So although the homes might not be at risk of being uninhabited, there won't be a physical way to get into it, which also builds into the funding formula. With that, and in fact a few of your points, the previous reports on Seaton did have more detail regarding this, with some maps and also the SMP shoreline management plan policies as well in a bit more detail. On hindsight, I should have possibly appended the previous report to this so it was to hand. Regarding the shoreline management plan, it's currently hold the line, but it is due to change in the next epoch. To believe management realignment. So this is essentially our last chance to make use of government funding to delay the inevitable, but by a considerable amount of years. We would be seeking to be at 50 to 100 years, adding on the life of these properties to keep them inhabitable going forwards. And then I think the final point regarding beer and mistakes made. Obviously, we are aware that beer has a very healthy beach, is another way of describing it, and Seaton has a lower beach, and there has been quite a lot of talk about the relationship between the two beaches. So one of the actions, once this work is completed, is to restart the BMP process, which is the beach management plan, but make it more holistic and include beer as part of that. So we can look at both communities together to understand, can we safely reduce the beach, where if it doesn't impact on beer and its cliffs, and actually re-nourish Seaton Hole and beaches further. Thank you.
Does that answer, I think there may be one question extant, isn't there? Tell me. Yes.
You mentioned the shoreline management plan reassessment. It's done every 5 or 10 years. So, as you say, this is the last chance to do something here. What would be really, really useful, and maybe not for part of this meeting, is that as the longshore drift goes from Beer to Seaton, that's the standard, passage of it. If you correct the problems that you've created at Beer, you will basically re-nourish the beach at Seaton Hole. So would I be able to get some kind of promise in whatever form that you might re-look at what you've done at Beer and see if there's any latitude to actually remove the blockage that you've created on the longshore drift, which would then re-nourish the Seaton Hole beach, which would also help you extend the lifespan of the work that we're talking about tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Tom, do you have is there anything you can say?
Yes, absolutely. That will form part of the next beach management plan, which we will hope to bring once this work is completed and look into it. We have to look at this with all the data, and it would take a brave person to simply remove that structure and hope that there's no coastal damage to Beer itself. So it's finding that right level of restoring it, but not putting the cliffs at risk at Beer, which is my understanding why that structure was built, and the cliff, there was a hole through the cliff that was infilled. Because the cliffs at Beer were at risk from coastal erosion. So they formed the terminal groin, and that enabled the beach to grow to protect the cliffs. But as we understand, the beach is far too big for it to be, well, it is big, and it makes usability difficult. So 100% is on our things to look at going forward, because as I agree, if we can really release some beach for some longshore drift to re-nourish Seaton Hole, it will benefit and prolong the life of this scheme. Thank you.
And provide the soft toe that you were talking about earlier as well. Well, replenish that. Okay, do you feel like all your questions have been answered, Councillor Bruce? Okay, I think he has, yeah. All right, so next up we have Councillor Hartnell, please. Were you? Oh, you've spoken. No, you've spoken. Councillor Hughes, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And whilst I'm sure that we all support the recommendation on page 3 of the agenda, as it's of the utmost importance that the project proceeds at the earliest opportunity, I would, however, like to move a second recommendation, because as part of the Seaton Hole Coastal Protection Scheme, there are 2 care homes housing a significant number of vulnerable residents, and they fall within the affected area. The current flood risk assessment models often focus on individual properties, yet care homes accommodate 30 or more residents, and I believe one of those at Seaton has 56 residents. They therefore are effectively functioning as multiple households. So to ensure a comprehensive and accurate assessment, I should like to propose that we urge the government through DEFRA and the Environment Agency to formally include care homes within property count calculations for flood defence funding and coastal protection schemes. And this adjustment would better reflect community vulnerability, improve resource allocation and strengthen long-term resilience planning for areas like Seaton Hole and beyond. And I'd be interested to see what Tom says about that.
Yes, okay, so I'm going to pass that over to Tom, and I think may be useful to actually not add that as a recommendation now, but to actually, that it is a very valid point, and I do think we probably do need to act on it given the number of care homes that we have in coastal areas in East Devon, but maybe it wouldn't be useful to add it to this today. I don't know, let's ask Tom what he thinks.
I can certainly answer the practicalities. Whether or not it would form a recommendation, I might defer to officers who would know more about how papers work. Councillor Hughes is indeed right that the care homes do not count as residential properties, and in fact the current government partnership funding calculator counts them as commercial buildings. So despite the high number of people living there, they're classed as commercial buildings, and therefore the funding that ourselves or other RMAs, risk management authorities, would receive is lower because they're classed as commercial. So, and his comments are a good time, because actually the government is consulting about the new funding regime, and it's currently out to public consultation. And so we are encouraging, the Environment Agency and others have encouraged RMAs and others to feed back to that to make sure the funding is more accessible and equal across the country, because the previous funding model made it easy for big towns to get money, but more rural communities like us struggled. So part of that consultation is to help how the government can easily fund more schemes in the future to protect against flood and coastal risk. Thank you.
Do you know when the deadline is for that, Tom?
I would have to have a quick look. And
I'm just wondering whether we have time to bring it forward as a motion to next full council.
It wouldn't affect the recommendation that's going before you tonight. I mean, but this is a separate recommendation, but it's just making representations to
No, I fully understand.
Yeah,
I think
that's all
it's a very valid point.
So
but
nothing else would strengthen the case, and maybe we'll get some more money.
Councillor Loudon, do you have anything you want to contribute to this?
I just wanted to, first of all, clarify through you, Chair, to Councillor Hughes, that the recommendation you've put on the table, it has no material effect upon the issue before it. Right, that's helpful. But the reason I ask is because what you've raised here, to my mind, and I may be the only one in the room, see this as more technical. Well, it's more of a technical bent. And I just wondered, building upon what the Chair has just said, whether you and your colleagues would be more inclined to bring it to the 16th of July full council as a motion, which would allow us to then ask officers to provide us collectively with a briefing note, so that if we're then considering it, we do so having a greater understanding. And that's why I ask that it makes no difference to what's before us tonight, Stuart.
I mean, I would definitely welcome that if you, yeah, so the deadline is at the end of this month, Councillor Hughes, so that would be wonderful if you could do that. So I completely agree with you. I think care homes should be HMOs, they shouldn't be businesses, because as you say, people live in them. Right, okay, so you're going to bring that back, aren't you, Councillor Hughes? Can't, Tom?
I was just going to add, I've just looked on the government website and it's the 29th of July, yeah.
So we've got just enough time if it goes to council on the 16th. Perfect. Simon? That's fine. Okay, done, okay. Fantastic, thank you. Right, glad we got through that.
Sorry, Chair, can I just
yes,
indulge you?
Councillor
Can I prevail upon Councillor Hughes through his group leader to perhaps circulate that to members in good time so that we can think about it as well?
I'd be happy by proposing somebody else second it from the group. Right.
Fantastic, thank you, Councillor Hughes. Wonderful. Okay, Councillor Faithful next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if it's been mentioned. How many tonnes have been put down so far?
Tom, do you have an answer for this off the cuff, or?
Apologies, no, I don't have an answer off the cusp. I could find out and get back to you an answer. Apologies.
You don't have an answer. Okay, Councillor Olive does not have an answer. Tom Buxton Smith will get back to you with the answer at some point. Councillor Olive, did you want to say something?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify. Are we being asked to vote to approve the project tonight, or just to approve some forward funding in advance of actually getting it from the EA? Because I sense we might be deviating a bit.
A very worthy question, Councillor Olive. Indeed, we are being asked to approve what is effectively, and I feel like maybe we might need some explanations on this, what is effectively a loan pending the arrival of other funds. So I don't know who can talk about this best, but I feel like it might be useful to have that explained. Tom, is that for you or is that for Simon, really? What we're being asked to vote on is effectively advancing some money to help the project happen this summer before the storms start hitting in the winter. Because if we don't do it in the summer, then we won't be able to do it until next summer. Simon, do you think you might be able to explain, please?
The project has been approved, the capital programme is in place. This is just a risk element that we're bringing in front of council in terms of progressing until funding has been confirmed. So it's just highlighting there is a risk if we progress of 673,000.
Thank you. And what are the specific risks?
Of spending 673,000, us not getting planning permission and then not being able to apply for grant.
Okay, so obviously the planning permission comes to our planning committee, doesn't it?
We will know, I think Tom has highlighted to council, it's July, we should know the answer.
Okay.
So we'll be mitigating spend as least we can, but allowing the project to progress. There is still the element that we will hold the rock as some form of asset.
In Councillor Hartnell's backyard.
But because there is a risk, I think it's a small risk, but there is a risk that we won't get the funding if planning isn't approved. So that's the reason it's come to council to highlight that to you in order for us to continue.
Okay, so you're being asked to make an assessment of the risk of advancing the money to make this project happen. Councillor Martin, I believe you had your hand up at some point. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. My question was about the risk, so it's been partly answered actually. So it seems that it's related to getting planning permission. Is there also a risk that the EA won't come through even if we do?
Simon, Tom.
So the Environment Agency money is allocated to us. The Environment Agency, there's essentially three ways of getting the money. First of all, you need the assurance, which is essentially a technical review by people within the Environment Agency who look at it, decide it's a good scheme, it's not a waste of money, it will have benefits. That's the hardest bit, and we have assurance. The other bit is allocation. We've been saying we need this money. We will be spending it this year. That has been granted, and we have that money. And the final bit is the formal approval, and that is the bit we're missing, because under the Coastal Protection Act, the Environment Agency can't release the money until we have planning permission granted. It's a sort of archaic function. We don't have it on our other schemes, such as Sidmouth or Fennerton, which have a flooding element because we use a Land Drainage Act. This is purely a Coastal Protection Act. There's no houses at risk of flooding at Seaton Hole, that is, purely coastal erosion. So it's a unique technicality that we've not experienced before on our other projects, where we can't release the money until planning is granted. Hopefully that answers your question.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Martin? And hopefully the questions that other people may have. Councillor Heath, you're next, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. As you know, Seaton Hole is facing issues due to coastal erosion and landslips, which are impacting beach access and potentially endangering nearby properties. Tom will know this because I've worked extensively and helpfully with Tom, on Beer Beach and issues there. A coastal protection scheme will better protect 41 homes, businesses, which Councillor Hughes has alluded to, that being the elderly persons' homes, and the coastline. And Seaton Hole has experienced significant landslips, with a major one in 2012 receiving national attention. These events have made the cliffs and surrounding area treacherous, causing damage and posing risk to people using the beach and living nearby. And landslides have restricted access to the beach, with some areas becoming impassable, particularly during high tide. So I think there is increasing susceptibility of Seaton and Beer to coastal change, with more storms and rainfall and climate change, and therefore the protection of the section between Seaton Hole Beach and the Check House elderly persons home, which is on the Beer Road actually, it's not actually on the cliff, needs to be given priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. Are there any more interventions, questions? Oh, Councillor Roy Collins, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've known Seaton Beach for over 70 years. I used to go there on the train from Honiton regularly. I had family members there, great uncles and aunties from both sides of the family who had retired there. And to see what's happened in these pictures with the cliff falls and that, I cannot understand why somebody hadn't done something long ago to have stopped it happening in the first place. You've lost the road there and things like that. At the far end there towards Beer, there used to be a ladder going down, similar to Jacob's ladder. I used to love going up and down those steps. And they used to have a lovely bit of sandy beach down the bottom and rock pools. I used to have a super time there as a youngster. Why has it been allowed to deteriorate and all this damage happened?
Unfortunately,
That's the
Councillor
question
Collins,
I'd like to
none
know.
of us is in charge of the weather and the waves. And as Councillor Bruce alluded to earlier, none of us can hold back the waves. And if the waves are getting bigger, then erosion is going to happen more. So I don't know whether is there anything in there that Tom might be able to answer?
Only to say that a previous scheme was built. Councillor Faithful was asking questions about the amount of rock in it. So there has been previous attempts to reduce the risk of erosion. That's the reason why we're here today. Is it has been funding. If there was more money around, I'm sure something would have been done sooner. But under the funding rules, we've been able to get a project to do this. Hopefully this year, whereas from previous years we've just simply not had the funding to get it across the line. So hopefully that helps.
Right. I'm not going to take more than 5 more interventions because it is a lovely evening. Councillor Olive, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I've heard nothing to suggest that we shouldn't go straight to a vote. Nobody's arguing against the recommendations. I move that the question be now put.
Is that you seconding the recommendation? Because we haven't actually had... Oh, we have had a seconder. Sorry, it was Councillor Hartnell. Right. I think that's a very good idea, in fact, unless there, one point? Okay, one question from councillor Hartnell, and then we will move to the vote, I think.
Yeah, sorry, this afternoon I meant to go onto the planning portal just to double check consultee comments and I didn't get time to do it, so I've just done it now. And I've just noticed that Natural England have put in a response, and there's, I think, 6 bullet points of areas where they require some mitigation. Are we content that they can all be satisfied, yeah?
Tom?
Yes, so they did have made us comments. We have spoken to them, and they are. I mean, I've actually met the gentleman in person, and he agreed that our proposals will mitigate that. So it will. Yes, it won't become a risk. I should also add that we did go through a pre-planning app as well, so we are fairly content that it's a low-risk planning application. Thank you.
Thank you. Crumbs. Okay. I don't want to. Right. Councillor Young first, then Councillor Bruce, and then Councillor Gazzard.
Yeah, just for clarity.
And then that's it.
We did check all the properties and counted them all. We checked that they were flats, which can count. Unfortunately, hotels and care homes are both classified as commercial, and if they were changed, if hotels and care homes were changed to be counted as individual homes, that would work really well for us for other schemes. So if we can get that sorted with the government, that would pay us in dividends in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Councillor Bruce?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a point I meant to make earlier, and it doesn't detract from what we're going to vote on, because I am in favour of this, but it's worth mentioning that I am, and Tom can correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that the 2012 fall happened with the rock armour in place and was a result of overloading by rainwater, and that's something that happens all the way along the coast from the east of here, particularly Bridport Way. The cliff collapses because it's saturated with water. It's not being nibbled away necessarily by the sea. So effectively what we do on the beach won't have any impact on that happening again.
So it was an exceptionally wet year, 2012 as well. Tom, do you have any historical knowledge of that?
Yes, I agree that was an exceptionally wet year, and in fact water did probably contribute to that. However, the rock armour that we have today is not in all places at the base of the cliff, because the cliff behind it has been nibbled away by big waves and a low beach. So the cliff, if the toe is taken, it becomes more unstable, and it will try to get back to its natural repose. But obviously, when it's wet, that repose is slacker, and so I mean, this is the most targeted work we are able to do. There are ongoing studies to look at how water management is done on the cliff in terms of properties and making sure that they're discharging into the right places, not into the underlying soil. But yes, cliff falls are normally a combination of features. They're rarely just the one. But there is evidence that the cliffs have been attacked by big waves in the winter, which has led them to be steeper than they have previously been, and they will continue cutting away unless we can slow the erosion down. Thank you.
I believe that was also the case at Sidmouth, was it not? That it was rainwater that caused part of the collapse. So we do have a sort of both dual effect, don't we, in our area?
Yeah, typically, I mean, Sidmouth is more eagerly watched, the cliff falls, and they typically happen in periods of dry weather or periods of very wet weather. So it's the extremes that we get the cliff falls in our geology here.
Thank you, Tom. Councillor Gazzard to take us all out. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and I do apologise for what I'm going to ask. As the debate's gone on, planning permission has been mentioned a lot, and my question is to Melanie. As a member of the planning committee, can I vote on this tonight or not? Because I assume it will come to East Devon District Council's planning committee.
Mel? Yes, you absolutely can, because tonight you're just deciding about the funding. The decision you make at the planning is about the merits of the planning application. So they're two totally different decisions, so you're absolutely fine.
Thank you.
The same goes for any other member of planning committee. Right, okay, I think we're there. I hope everybody doesn't have any burning questions left in their mind that they feel are unanswered? Right, in that case, we shall move to a vote. If you are in favour of accepting this recommendation, would you please raise your hand now? If you are against the recommendation, would you please raise your hand now? And if you wish to abstain, please raise your hand now. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Right, and I'm now about to close the meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance, and to anybody watching online, thank you for your forbearance, and safe